This is a long one, so I'm going to need some patience as you read this one. Background. When I was 3 years old, my first memory is of my stepfather trying to drown me in a kiddie pool. To this day, I still don't know who stopped him and why. My mother had a relationship with this man who was physically abusive. She herself was also abusive and neglectful. I remember the one time she kicked me across the room because I had been bothering her with something while she was in the bathroom. At age 5, I was feeding my 2-year-old sister because my mother wasn't. I would also get in trouble for getting up on the countertops so that I could feed us. Both my mother and stepfather were alcoholics. Over the years, Child Protective Services had caught wind of the situation, and I was placed with my aunt and uncle when I was 5. My sister was then placed with her father. My mother had visitation, but it was spotty until it altogether stopped when I was 8. There was always a variety of excuses as to why she couldn't come. Both job and family services and the courts offered assistance for things such as getting her vehicle fixed. That stopped when she failed to get back on track and do what was required of her. Growing up, I would confront her during visitation and ask why she did the things she had done. Never a solid answer. All I got was gaslighting and was told that these things never happened. Still, to this day, she denies it. Once visitation ended, I didn't hear from her for 6 years. When I was 14, I reached out to her through Facebook and got back in contact with her. Things seemed to be going well, but still she would deny the things I had physical memories of and experienced. She apologized for bringing my stepfather into our lives, but would never own up to her actions. I forgave her and formed a connection because I wanted to know my family on my mother's side, as my aunt was my father's sister. We continued to build a connection for years. At 14, I had trouble with my aunt and uncle. We just could no longer seem to get along. I was depressed and had issues, so I forced my way into the foster care system. Our relationship was rocky throughout that, but I continued to talk to my mother. When I turned 20, I was living in a group home and had my own car, doing well. I still had a rocky relationship with my aunt and uncle, but continued to talk to my mother. I forgave her, and we worked on our relationship, coming a long way and building trust. We agreed to let the past go. I began to visit her in the house she was renting, and things went well. At this point, my dad's side of the family was no contact. In 2020, I moved in with my mother, and this was where the problems began again. I thought she was doing better. She wasn't drinking, and so I figured it was a good idea. It then became clear over time and through her own admission that my mother was doing meth. I had no knowledge of it at the time, so I didn't see the erratic behavior. She became more distant and secluded herself in her room, so I didn't know. She would come out at night when I was asleep as I had a full-time job. She is on disability for neuropathy and fibromyalgia, so she was always home. That was until she started to go out with her friend and do meth with her. I then got stuck with her massive dog, who I love and is my sweet baby, but she shirked all her responsibilities off to me. In 2022, she and her friend were caught doing meth. My mother was arrested, and I got fired from my job on the same day that happened because I had not been pulling my weight. It was a manual labor job, couldn't keep up. I found out then how serious it was, and that she had drugs in public areas. Both my landlord and anyone who was in the household could have been arrested if she'd been caught at home. Luckily, the house was clean by the time it all happened. My mom also had a serious problem with hoarding too. I took care of the house and her dog for a month before she was bailed out by my family. I couldn't contribute as times were getting tough. We continued to talk, but she had to live with my grandmother while the court cases were ongoing. It ended up with me taking over the house lease. Landlord never wants her back, and having responsibility for all her hoardings. Now here's the dilemma. I forgave her for everything and I still have forgiveness, but I'm not sure I can rekindle our relationship. There's been so much hurt, and despite forgiving her, I'm not sure I can deal with any more abuse from her. She continues to guilt-trip me into letting her move back in and tries to make me feel bad, but I've been standing my ground. So, Reddit, AITA, if I don't rekindle the relationship with my mom? TL. DR, my mom who abused me still wants to be a part of my life, but I'm just not sure I can ever trust her enough to let her back in.